It's now time for Party Chat Sports.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Welcome back, everybody, to Party Chat Sports. I'm Caleb Gill. Drew Nelson is joined with me today, and we'll see if anybody else decides to join us this evening. Drew and I, you might notice, we've got new merch. Shout out to Mrs. Nelson. These are awesome. These are fantastic. So thank you so much to Mrs. Nelson for getting these for all of us. The other two do have their shirts, and if they were joining us, they would be wearing them as well. But we had to get them out at some point. As we get ready for Wildcard Weekend, or we already had Wildcard Weekend, we're going to discuss it. I'll be honest, Wildcard Weekend kind of sucked. It was not, it sucked for you in some other ways. I know.
You're telling me.
There's some interesting storylines, like the first number 7 seed winning in Wildcard Weekend. And usually Wildcard Weekend sucks because you have teams like the 7th seed lose, and it's like, do we really need the extra team? And, well, now this team, or this year, they do win. But that wasn't the only thing that sucked about this weekend. It's just not great football. There was one good football game. We'll talk about all that. We'll start with a game that was over rather... A lot of these games felt like they were over rather quickly. This one definitely kind of felt like that. Houston, Cleveland. Cleveland's coming in on a high. Joe Flacco. Is he going to win Comeback Player of the Year? There was, I was listening to some different people say, like, is he going to be the starter next year? Should they move on off of Deshaun Watson? Which, that's a whole nother discussion, but for Joe Flacco. And then we saw what Joe Flacco really is. He's a turnover magnet, but his big plays a lot of times can help push, you kind of forget about the turnovers when there's the big plays. But the Houston Texans, way ahead of schedule. This was a team that, Drew, you've mentioned it a couple different times. They were projected to have the second overall pick this year. Like, their pick should have been the second overall pick. Like, the Cardinals were supposed to have picks 1 and 2, their own, and the Texans pick. And they won a playoff game with a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback, a rookie offensive coordinator, and I believe they're the youngest roster in the playoffs. So, impressive 45-14 win. That's right, that is Packers. That's right. I knew one of these teams. I'm sure they're close. With the players, there's not a lot of named players on this team. Like, I'm definitely speaking over you at the moment, but one last thing is, there's talk about, like, Justin Fields, we should give him another chance, and some of these other quarterbacks that you're just kind of questioning, like, put the pieces around him. And then you see C.J. Stroud throwing to a guy named Brevin and putting up 45 points up on the number 1 defense in the league, which I've definitely anointed them that. But, like, what this Texas team in general is doing is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been cool to see, and the game was actually close for a while. It was much more back and forth than I was expecting.
Oh yeah, the first quarter was back and forth.
Yeah, it was. They were trading blows there for a while until I think the first pick 6, and then it just kind of was a landslide in one direction for the Texans. But the obviously the main takeaway is, it's funny. I listen to PFF and their podcasts all the time, and Sam Munson, who's on the podcast, was not a Stroud believer at all. He was a Bryce Young believer, which we don't need to talk about Bryce Young, but
he's not in the
playoffs. One of the things that always gets brought up is Georgia Stroud. And the main concern was, okay, we saw that he can play at this level, but can he do it consistently? And a lot of people like Sam thought, no, that's not possible. It's not likely that he's going to stay at that high level. That's just a, high, 99th percentile performance by him. It's not what you're going to get week in, week out, which through the whole
Fair.
season, there was definitely bad games. I mean, the game against the Panthers that they played this season, I mean, they lost to the worst team in the league. But when it comes to the playoffs and stringing, enough victories together, they're division winners. They got a home playoff game, and then they go and destroy one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league. It's just it's amazing how Stroud has come along. And to kind of your point that you were starting to make is you were talking a little bit about like, Stroud's kind of making it hard for teams. They see him doing well, they're going to want to go get the next guy. I personally think, and I imagine you share the same sentiment, but we saw Georgia Stroud, and yeah, that was amazing, next level. But the stuff that Stroud is doing now is stuff he was doing the whole time. I mean, some of the playmaking, like running around, under pressure and making throws. Maybe we didn't see that a whole lot until Georgia, but the pinpoint accuracy, all that kind of stuff was always there. Not always. He had a rough start to begin.
That's one thing we loved about Stroud was accuracy. But not to completely cut you off, but like to add to that, one thing that we were kind of upset with once we got to the Georgia game last year was, why wasn't he moving like this the entire year?
Yeah,
like that's
because he was escaping pressure. He had I think it was Jordan Davis at the time. Maybe it was Jalen Carter. I don't remember. Like he broke through the line real quick and was coming right into Stroud's face, and Stroud like juked him and threw a dot to Marvin Harrison in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. And it was
a scramble. Sorry, but it was a scramble there at the end from him that made us think like we are actually going to win this game.
Yeah, it was a scramble to get to where we kicked the field goal from, I think.
Yep. Yeah, because we got
it was like, where the heck was that the entire time? Because there was throughout the season, it was like, dude, you could have just ran and got this many yards. Anyways, that's getting in a little bit too thick, but either way, yes, he has managed to take Georgia Stroud and spread that over an NFL season. And if he can continue doing so, which is likely considering usually players are not the best at their rookie season. That's usually not their peak.
We were waiting the entire year for him to hit that wall.
So the Texans are looking really good for a long time. Yep. The Browns give, tip of the cap, hats off for them for winning as many games as they did, making it as far as they did with the amount of injuries that they did. Definitely, we already talked about, I think Stefanski should win Coach of the Year. DeMeco Ryans is definitely deservable as well. But
these two
salute to the Browns. Texans, though, they found their stride at the right time. They look good.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go off the whole CJ Stroud thing, the entire year we were just, at least me, was kind of like, when is he going to hit that wall? Because usually rookies hit a wall, like if they're hot out the gates, then they start kind of slowing down, or they kind of like, they just don't look as good. And I never felt he hit that quote-unquote rookie wall. And I think there's something to be said about, like, the Georgia game. But also, like you mentioned, at the end of the year when they were stringing along wins, I think there's something to be said about a player that just has that killer mentality. And so far he's shown in his rookie year that when they need to win, like, towards the end of the year, in the playoffs now, and I think, even in that Georgia game, like, he did what he needed to do to win. He set his team up for success. He's doing that with the Texans. And I think there's something to that whole killer mentality or quarterback
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, I was worried and stupid as we've seen with the preseason. He wasn't doing too great in the preseason, but as we've come to find out, apparently the preseason means nothing. So he, I remember looking at how he was doing, comparing that to how Bryce Young was doing, and he wasn't doing too well. I think he had hit one of his very first throws. It was within the first 5 or 10 throws that he made was an awful interception. I was like, oh man,
Yep.
he might
Then he
have a
went like
rough
3
year.
or 4. He went like 3 or
And
4
then-
straight weeks or something like that without one.
Yeah, he set the rookie record for most completions in a row without an interception. Almost got close to. So Kyler Murray has the record for most completions in a row, but that's not by a rookie specifically.
Was that the year
CJ
that they went
Stroud
like
broke
10
the
and 0?
record, probably. But CJ Stroud now has the rookie record of most completions, which was held by Dak before that and Tom Brady before that.
I'll be honest. As much as I love giving Dak crap, that's good company to be in. Overall.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Dak says he's been in the league.
Everyone
what,
forgets that
9
Dak actually had
years?
Dak's 2016, so that's 8 years now.
I mean, if you have a quarterback
Dak
for
did
8
have
years,
a historic rookie season. Everyone forgets.
Yep.
But CJ Stroud, man, so happy to see him. That red Texans jersey will be an acquisition of mine since I can't wear my Cowboys ones anymore.
see, my issue, I would love to get a CJ Stroud jersey, but when I get a jersey of a team or a player that's not on the Jets, it's like,
Yeah,
all right,
maybe
do I
you
need
should
more
get
than
one.
one? Because I have a JJ
Well, I don't
Watt
want
one.
you to curse them either.
That's true. I have a JJ Watt jersey, so it's like, do I really get 2 Texans jerseys?
Yeah.
So I probably won't. That's going to be a nice fit for you, though. If you haven't already seen Drew's video, Dillon probably got videos up. He does. But Drew's video that he's made a reference to, he retired his Dak Prescott jersey, which we'll get to later on, but didn't need to put that plug in there. Browns wise, is there anything
Check
else?
it out. It's very
it's emotional.
It's very sad. Very emotional. I have to say it's a little humorous. Probably even more so if you're not a Cowboys fan. If you're not a Cowboys fan, you can laugh the whole time.
Yep.
Although that Bears fan, he said he was in there feeling bad for me. He hates the Cowboys, and he was he was in his feels too. So go check it out.
We'll get back to the Cowboys later. That's my bad for steering us off track. But Texans love what they're doing. I'm excited. Even if they lose, which they're probably going to lose this week. You never know.
They didn't have a chance against the Browns. I really didn't.
I thought it was going to be closer. I thought the Browns were going to edge it out. I thought that it was going to be somewhat of a chance. I didn't expect this to be a blowout by any means. I thought it was going to be more of a shootout, which we kind of saw early, which I forgot about because I forgot that it was a shootout there. But it was a shootout early. And I just thought Joe Flacco, veteran, was going to be pull it out in the end. But yeah, back-to-back pick sixes there in the third quarter definitely killed them. And props to them. And also, like you said, Drew, good season for the Browns, honestly. The injuries that they've had, the sustained quarterback, running back, left tackle, right tackle, backup right tackle. They had a really good season, all things considered. Yep. And the one thing that I know Dillon's going to want to mention is that the defensive player of the year, more than likely, was a no-show. The entire defense was really a no-show. Like, early on.
Yeah. I think the main matchup was Myles Garrett and Laramie Tunsil. I don't think we need to pretend like Tunsil is bad or anything short of one of the best tackles in the league.
But
so,
to play devil's advocate,
maybe Garrett didn't have a. I mean, yeah.
If you're the defensive player of the year, you should play devil's advocate to kind of say what Dillon would say. He should have put up more numbers, which I get.
He should have. He should have. And I will come on the other side and say, exactly. I would come up on the other side and say that when your game plan is accounting for Myles Garrett and you're able to put one of the best tackles in the league on him, it's a pretty good game plan, I would imagine. If, and real quick, it blows my mind why teams like the Browns and the Cowboys do this too. Why do you put your star pass rusher on the best tackle on the team?
Why don't you move him
Have
around?
him go against Joe Schmo on the right side or whatever team it is. Maybe their right tackle's the best. Put them
versatile
where
enough
they
to
have
play
the best
inside.
chance of winning.
Right.
Yeah, put Myles Garrett at nose tackle for all I care.
He can do it.
Put him against someone that's not Laramie Tunsil. But anyways.
Last thing on that, because you mentioned PFF, and that's the other thing that came out. It's like, well, Myles Garrett definitely was going to stop them with his PFF grade. I do wonder what you think about PFF grades, because you said that you listen to the PFF podcast, and JJ Watt made some comments on PFF. He's been making a couple comments as of late, and definitely made some comments on PFF grading. So I just wanted, because the ones that always kind of stand out to me that I don't care for from PFF personally is offensive line grade. So just in general, how do you feel about PFF grade?
I like them. And what JJ Watt kind of exposed himself when he made his little rant about PFF grades. He said, and this is what happens when you let an algorithm try to grade people. That's not at all what PFF does. PFF has actual people, multiple people, watching the game and making the grades. It's not some sort of computer system that just spits stuff out. And also, hilariously, ironically, it was specifically talking about CJ Stroud's grade versus Jordan Love, even though they had similar stat lines. Every single NFL team subscribes to PFF. They have their weight, and the NFL does, on PFF grades. They have a say or some sort of partnership with them, at least in some capacity, of how the grades are measured. And the Texans offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, is from and was with PFF for a long time. Really? So he was very instrumental in working out how the grades are calculated. So
I think
it's kind of
difficult.
ironic. Because one of the comparisons was like PFF grade versus like an actual NFL coach's grade.
That's what he said. That's what JJ Watt mentioned, was that he was in coaching rooms where they showed the PFF grade and the coaching grade, and they're completely different. But I think the one thing that's difficult is you don't know the assignment. That like PFF doesn't know what their assignment was exactly. It's just kind of a guess on the way things went, but where the coaches actually know what that assignment was. I think
PFF takes in more context too. Like
probably
they award, so like what happens with like the pass rushers, for example, is if Myles Garrett beats the tackle in 2 seconds or less, something crazy, that's obviously a plus.
Right.
He doesn't get dinged or anything because the quarterback scrambled to the opposite side and he couldn't get a sack. Right. So he's doing his job. Whereas maybe you have TJ Watt, who he's beating guys. He's not beating them as often or as frequent or as fast as Myles Garrett. But when he does win, the quarterback just happens to be right in front of him and he gets the sack. He doesn't get any extra grade really for that sack if he didn't really do anything extra to get to him. You know what I mean? Like the sack element of it is almost coincidental. It's almost luck, because if for many, many other reasons, the quarterback, it may not even be realistic for the quarterback to be in a spot where you could make a sack or make a play on him. And TJ Watt led the league in sacks with 19, I think, 19 and a half, whatever it was. That's 19 plays out of the whole season. And Myles Garrett was what, 15, maybe 16 or something? Like, we're looking at such a minuscule amount of plays out of the season, small sample size. It's like, okay, yeah, 19, cool. You made 4 more plays out of the whole season than Myles Garrett, but it's just, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
if you really look at the PFF grading and what they're doing and stop just like assuming that it's just random made up magic make believe land, once you start looking into like what goes into it, it makes a lot of sense.
We should probably move on. Dylan's definitely going to yell at us for spending too much time on this.
That's fine. I could do a whole episode about PFF stuff. Probably.
Hey.
I've come to like it a lot.
We're going to need an off-season topic, so that could definitely be one for you. But let's move on to this game. Was one that was one of the couple games that was played outside in the elements, and yeah, it was cold, and there was definitely some stuff that came out afterwards about like the fans that attended. But one thing that I was worried about, because I'm anti-dome, Drew is dome, so we are split here at Party Chat Sports. Cam and I are anti-dome. Drew and Dillon are dome. We're definitely going to have that discussion at some point. But my worry was people going to say after this game, like, oh, well, Dolphins lost because of the weather. They couldn't handle it. But watching this game, they didn't lose because it was cold. Did it help or did it make impacts at times? Possibly, probably. But the Chiefs faced the same conditions. And what I saw was a team that had been fraudulent from the Dolphins. Like, they looked like the team that barely made it into the playoffs at times, or they looked like the team that blew the AFC East, not a team that was freezing. Where the Chiefs, they started to come alive. Isaiah Pacheco, nobody wanted to tackle him. Mahomes made some good plays, and someone's going to have to make a decision on Tua. I've been very hypocritical, or not hypocritical. I've been very anti-Tua, and I've had to ease up this year because
Wasn't it Will Fuller or someone on Twitter? They used to be a Dolphin at one point, and they were like, I forget exactly what they said, but
it
they
might
were
have been
hating
Will
on
Fuller.
Tua. I thought that's who it was. They were hating on him, and it was like, I can't remember if he said this or not. Maybe I'm just making this up. I know he was hating on him, but I'm pretty sure he said something to the like of like, we, might be time to move on or start looking or something.
Nothing pops up when I do the search, so I'm pretty sure somebody did, and I think it's very telling that this team is undefeated when Tyreek Hill has over 100 yards. Tyreek Hill is one of the better players in the league. It makes sense. When he has less than 100 yards, I think they showed, they have a losing record when Tyreek Hill has less than 100 yards. So this offense doesn't revolve around the quarterback at all. It's all about getting it into his hand, or out of Tua's hands and into Tyreek's, and just letting Tyreek go, which is fine. But Tua has to be able to get the ball to other places too, and I think he is Alex Smith level. He's not a franchise quarterback. I think he can.
Yeah.
He's a definition of a game manager. Which, if you want to make it to a Super Bowl, the 49ers made it to a Super Bowl with a game manager, and Jimmy Garoppolo. Did they win it? No, because they had a game manager. That's why they drafted Trey Lance. You have to have. That's why Cam Newton was talking his crap about game managers, because they don't win Super Bowls, typically. And this is a team that is trying to win
And neither
Super
did
Bowl.
Cam Newton either.
This is true. Cam Newton, whatever on that, but still, he made a point there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, just get back to the game. We both picked the Chiefs. I think the Dolphins showed throughout the season, but especially towards the end, that they were vulnerable. There's really no reason to be confident in Tua's ability to be a really good quarterback, especially when your opponent has Patrick Mahomes. I think for that reason, just the quarterback duel gave the edge to the Chiefs. Chiefs playing at home in the freezing temperatures, just everything was stacked against the Dolphins. Maybe they win the game in a dome. I don't think they do.
And here's the thing:
Doesn't
the
necessarily
Dolphins
support my argument, but
if the Dolphins want to bitch about the weather, all they had to do was win week 18.
yep.
That's all they had to do.
The Chiefs. One thing I want to say about the Chiefs is their success is it's amazing, actually. So next week, Patrick Mahomes will play his first road playoff game in his NFL career. He's been in the league 6-7 years.
I think he's been a starter for 5.
Okay.
He was drafted
20...
18. He was drafted 18. Yes.
So he
No,
didn't play
17.
17.
He played 18. He was drafted 17. So 18,
So
19,
this is his
20,
6th
21,
year?
22, 23. Yeah, 6 years starting. My bad. My math's wrong.
So this is
I'm not a math
his
major. So.
5th playoffs? No, 6th year starting, we just said. So this is his 6th playoffs. And his first road playoff game. The AFC Championship has been in Kansas City
3 years
every year
that he started.
Since he's been a starter. That's crazy. And shout out to my coworker here, who's an absolute Mahomes hater. I used to be when he first started to come onto the scene, because everyone was like, "Oh my God, Mahomes this, Mahomes that, Mahomes whatever." And
Look,
to a point,
that
yeah,
nobody
that's
else
still
ever makes.
yeah, and that a lot of that is still ridiculous.
Just watch
but
Matthew Stafford highlight.
The consistency at which he makes plays like that, the success, it's on a level that we haven't really seen before. I mean, we can start comparing rings and talking about Tom Brady, this, that, the third.
I was going to say, that's kind of the comparison now, is the Patriots.
When you're being compared to Tom Brady and you're 28 years old and still in the prime of your capabilities, I mean, you're doing something right. And my take when we talk about Mahomes with me and my coworker is just appreciate greatness while we have it. Yeah, all the extra stuff, the Jackson Mahomes stuff is annoying. The glazing, the constant Chris Collinsworth and all these other
Tony
Romo and
oh my
all
God,
that.
that's
Yeah,
gonna be brutal this week.
It's annoying, but the stuff we're seeing from him is fantastic, and I think we need to appreciate it while we have it before, who knows, man. It takes one bad injury, one wrong hit, and he could walk away too early, kind of like Luck, although he's in a much better situation than Luck was in, but still.
That makes me so sad.
Can't bet against Mahomes.
No, you can't. Like, they were saying it a couple different times on the broadcast, which, again, blazing, but you get to the playoffs, and he just wins. Did they limp into the playoffs? Sure. But you know what?
Top 10 all-time playoff wins already? He'll be top 6 if he wins next week.
It's crazy.
That's insane. He's got more than Rodgers now. Next week it'll be either tied or more than Big Ben, and there was someone else in there too.
Yeah.
Like, huge, crazy.
And like you mentioned, this is the first time he's ever playing a playoff game on the road, and he's already has that many wins.
It took 6 years. 7 if you count the year that he didn't play.
And when you have a quarterback like Mahomes, that's why you go into a season without addressing wide receiver, which me especially, has been saying the entire year that you got to address wide receiver. You're not going to win with the wide receiver groups that you have. And then Rashee Rice, in his first career playoff game for the Young Buck, 8 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, that was a lot of that was Rashee Rice, but Mahomes puts you in that spot when you have a quarterback like Mahomes. And that's the difference between. That's why Mahomes is all the way up here, right? And then you have the other tier down here. You have guys like Tua in this other tier down here. And then you have the rest of the league. He is far and away more. That's why heading into the season, we were kind of glazing Mahomes. We had, I don't know if we said it here on the pod or if it was just in our own private conversations in our group chat, but we were having discussions on where he ranks all time already. You don't get in those conversations by accident, especially at 28 years old.
Yeah.
Crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. And the defense, too. Both of these two teams, heading into the playoffs, before I saw these two teams were going to be matched up with each other, Dolphins and Chiefs, I wasn't sure if either of these two teams would win a playoff game. And I've been saying that all year about the Dolphins, where they're flashy, they're fun, I don't trust them to win a playoff game. And they only put up 7 points. And that's just kind of been the theme lately. They haven't scored touchdowns lately. So I felt confident, like you did, to take the Chiefs. The Chiefs, cold weather, still, they averaged 31 points in the playoffs. They averaged 31 points per game in the playoffs when Patrick Mahomes starts. They were one touchdown off, and they definitely let off the gas there in the fourth quarter. A lot of times that's out of necessity that they have to score that much. And I was worried that this was going to be a completely different Chiefs team, and they hit the playoffs. First game, they look like the Chiefs. It's scary. They're going to play the Bills, and that's going to be a really good game, I think. Because I genuinely don't know who I would take, and I'm glad that we got the pick'ems over, which will let everybody know how the pick'ems ended here at the end of the show. But I'm glad we do have a pick'ems winner. We'll announce that at the end of the show. But I don't know who I would pick in Bills Chiefs, just the way those two teams are playing right now. I'm surprised that the Chiefs played this well in their first playoff game this year.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see now that Josh Allen gets to be at home instead of Mahomes. So We'll see. See what happens. It'll be a good game. But Dolphins, man, frauds. They're not the only ones.
No, there's been a lot of frauds here in the playoffs, and I think that's a good segue. Like we already mentioned, Drew has a Disaster in Dallas video up on YouTube at Party Chat Sports. There's a link on the Twitter, and we also have a little TikTok clip at Party Chat Sports as well, so make sure you go check out all that content again at Party Chat Sports. But Drew, you've mentioned a lot of this already. The Packers go to Dallas, 48-32 win, but it's a 16-point loss, so that's just on paper. I really don't know how much more you can, are able to say on this game, but I'll let you speak whatever else you have to before I get back on.
Yeah, if you want a really long spiel about it, there's a very nice video ready for on YouTube. But let's summarize. Cowboys kind of struggled all year with the 49ers, the Bills. Those are the big ones. Lost the Eagles once. You lose to the Cardinals. You struggle with the Seahawks. After the 49ers game, it looked like things were turning around, with the offense, this, that, whatever. You find a way, due to the Eagles' epic collapse, to win the division, which prophecy, destiny, all that sort of thing comes into play. You beat the Lions. The thing that gave me a little bit of hope was, you lost to the 49ers in embarrassing fashion. Same with the Bills. However, you beat the 3 seed, the 5 seed, 6 seed, 2 of which were pretty convincing wins. I thought maybe that means something. You're playing the 7 seed, the youngest team in the playoffs. I think it's one of the youngest teams, if not the youngest team in playoff history, in NFL history. The 7th seed, since its creation, had never won a single playoff game until Sunday. Epic collapse. First thing I'll say, as there's some news on the situation, Mike McCarthy will return as a Cowboys head coach next year. That is disappointing, yet unsurprising. We'll start with where he went wrong. Some interesting facts and videos have come out as people are starting to review the tape of the game. We turned into a passing offense like we should have been the whole season. We turned into an actual passing offense after the 49ers game. And throughout the whole season, we could not get the run to be effective at all in almost every game. We come out and we decide this is a good time to establish the run. Let's do it now. Now that we're in the playoffs. Screw going with what we were good at all season. That's dumb. Let's start something new. Let's start a new strategy here in the playoffs. That backfired, obviously. Dak threw 4 passes in the first quarter. That's not what we want to do. Dak's first pass on second down was with 11 minutes left in the second quarter. So we're trying to, and it's second down runs are a very hot topic in Cowboys Twitter. They have been for a long time. Because often it's second down run, and then even on 2nd and 10, it's very often on 2nd and 10. There's not a lot of times that you do not want to be in third down situations. You do not want to be in third down. By running on 2nd and 10, by running on second down on anything that's not 2nd and maybe 4 or shorter, you're asking your quarterback to save you on third down, because you go, a lot of times it's run, pass, or maybe you pass on first down. Run the second time, that's definitely a cry for help. And then it's like, okay, pass, didn't get it. Second down, run, okay, we need you to save us. Dak, please save us. Throughout the season, Dak was one of the best, if not the best, quarterback on third down. So he had been able to do that. Then you get into the playoffs, you're not letting Dak pass, and for whatever reason, this could be coaching. Maybe it's not the fault of the coaches. You've got CD, who's crying or something at the beginning of the game. You got Dak talking to him. You got McCarthy having to come talk to him on the bench. Already, everything's out of whack. I have things to say about that I'm going to say it right now while I've got it on my mind. The Cowboys are the weirdest thing. They are the biggest. They run off of vibes. And in the first few minutes of a game, you can tell if the vibes are off. And if the vibes are off, they're losing. So when CD's out there getting talked to on the bench. Dak, they miss over in the middle and he's having to talk to him. Not good. Special teams penalty, defensive penalties to extend the first drive for the Packers and let them score. Immediately, vibes were killed. Game was over. And at that first quarter, game was over. Anyways, coaching malpractice on the offense. Like I said, trying to lean on the run game when that hasn't worked all year. Not sure why you thought it was going to start working all of a sudden. Moving on. Dan Quinn. I thought you were awesome. It turns out you are a fraud. The Shanahan tree owns you. The Shanahan tree makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. You cannot beat the Shanahan tree. It is impossible for you. I'm not sure what was happening.
He's lost every game against the Shanahan tree.
We beat McVay. So McVay,
LaFleur,
I don't know if
Shanahan.
there's any other ones. Yeah, but I don't know. We haven't beat LaFleur, I don't think.
You lost to McDaniel.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if
Shanahan, obviously.
I mean, technically, Robert Saleh is on the tree, but not the offside. So how you?
Yeah, I don't know if people consider Saleh a Shanahan tree, although he probably should be, but just for different reasons. Anyways, you beat McVay once, okay, but the rest of the Shanahan tree, you got embarrassed. We're same thing with McCarthy. The whole year we're playing man coverage, and that's what we excel at. That's what we're the best, man coverage. We come out, we're in zone. The heck are we doing in zone? We haven't played zone all year. Romeo Doubs is just chilling in the middle of the field wide open. Often. At least the first two drives, back to back. We get pressure on Love. He just is on his back foot and just tosses it to wide open Doubs in the middle of the field, who was wide open many, many times throughout the rest of the game, as well as Kraft or Musgrave, whoever it was, the tight end, who had no one around him within 20, 30 yards. It's like, what are you doing, pal? Another thing is actually, that was a McCarthy thought, but same kind of deal. It's almost like they're the same person making the same mistakes. The thing that both of them did was McCarthy would come out in 12 personnel, which is two tight ends, and try to run the ball. Packers, when you have 12 personnel, they come out with 5 defensive linemen. You're getting stuffed. You're getting stuffed every time. You're just, I don't know. It's just they never did anything to take advantage of that either. They didn't come out in 12 and then throw the ball. They'd come out in 12. The Packers would match, as you rightfully should do as a defense coordinator. We'll get to Quinn in a second. We didn't take any advantage of that. We said, oh, look, we came out in 12 personnel. We're going to run. Oh, you guys brought out a package to stop the run? Don't care. We're going to run. Oh, it failed. Oh, let's do that 10 more times. On the other side of the ball, Dan Quinn, Packers come out in 12, and we're playing nickel. We're playing dime. We're already small as a defense. Our linebackers are essentially safeties. Our defensive line is pretty small other than Jonathan Hankins. A big mystery that's trying to be solved right now, just off topic, kind of on topic, is Mozzie Smith has for some reason lost 30 pounds since we drafted him. And we're trying to determine whether someone told him to do that or why he's lost 30 pounds. Because we drafted him to be a hole-plugging, run-stopping nose tackle. We have a billion defense tackles and edges that can rush the passer. We don't need Mozzie to be that. And yet he's out here losing 30 pounds. If Dan Quinn is the one that told him to lose 30 pounds, what are you doing, pal? What are you doing? Anyways, Packers come out in a formation that is 12 personnel. We're in nickel, we get gashed. And it was just the whole game, just complete and utter dominance by the Packers coaching staff. It was a coaching ass whooping lesson in how to, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. The Shanahan tree continued their dominance over Dan Quinn. I already
Quick
said my
question.
piece on McCarthy and Dak. He deserves his criticisms too. Not when I say it's McCarthy's fault, when I say it's Dan Quinn's fault, that doesn't mean that it's not also Dak's fault. And then when I'm going to say it's Dak's fault, that doesn't mean that it's not McCarthy's fault and it's not whoever else. Everyone is at fault. There's not a single person who played well except for Jake Ferguson. Dak, I'm going to give you the brief summary of what I said in the video. You had an opportunity to change the narrative, and you couldn't. You couldn't meet the task. You couldn't meet expectations. You couldn't rise to the occasion. Instead, you collapsed like everyone always said all season and all your entire career. Like that's what everyone says about you. That's what everyone says you'll do in the playoffs. Had an opportunity to prove them wrong, and you didn't. We had an opportunity to finally beat the Packers, start getting over some of these generational curses, and we couldn't. So for that, especially, it's extremely disappointing. Extremely disappointing.
So the one thing I've seen
That
a
was
couple
long.
times,
I'm sorry.
you're good. You had a lot to get off your chest, even after your video again on YouTube at Party Network. Do you think the Cowboys just completely overlooked and underestimated the Packers? That's one thing I've seen a couple times. That it looked like
I saw
they
that.
just thought that it was just going to be like they could just do whatever and didn't really.
I don't know if I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
I feel like it
If
makes
that
it worse
actually
if you're
happened.
overlooking them. If you're overlooking a team that gave you an ass whooping, that's bad luck.
Yeah, it is bad.
I just wanted,
and it's something
your
I would not be surprised if the Cowboys were doing that. So I don't know if I cut you off a little bit, but I'll reiterate. One of the things going around on Twitter, X, whatever, that I've seen, I don't know if you saw it somewhere else, is maybe the Cowboys were expecting to win just based on talent. We had more experienced guys, stuff like that. So we were putting some vanilla base concepts on the field, not wanting to show too much because we thought, okay, next round we'll start. Or
so that
maybe
looking ahead. They were looking ahead.
Looking ahead.
And
These guys are chumps. We're going to save all the good stuff for later down the line. If that's the case, man, I don't know what is going on, but I think for some reason, the Cowboys just get in their own heads for the playoffs. If that's the case, maybe it was because the Packers came to town and we can never beat the Packers. Or, it's the same thing with the 49ers. Maybe it's the stigma around the team. But then also, like, we're in the playoffs. We got to change everything we've done all season to, trick people in the playoffs. Or we're going to throw them off because they're going to plan for us running man coverage and we're going to be in zone. And they're going to plan for us to throw the ball 50 times. We're going to run it 50 times. I don't know. We're playing mental games. We're playing mental games. And it's just completely ruining everything. And if we did look ahead, man, as much as I wanted to look past the Packers, and as much as we should have, because we are the 2 seed. We won 12 games. We won the division. And the Packers, the 7 seed, won, how many games did they win? 9? 10? 9, I think. They win 9 games. Yeah, you are supposed to win that game. But guess what? You still have to play the game. You still have to be better than the other team.
That's why these games get played.
If that was the case where they were looking ahead, I think they would have said, "Oh, hey, we're getting beat up pretty good. Let's figure something out a little bit sooner." They didn't really until it was garbage time, and then we were moving down the field against backups. But just
Yeah, because
epic collapse on every single level. Every single person involved just completely and utterly collapsed. And it's when
is that
something like that happens, it's hard to identify which piece of it has to change. Because if it
yeah
was just the offense, it's like, okay, either get a new offense coordinator and get Mike McCarthy to give up play calling duty, get a new head coach. If it's just the defense, okay, get a new defensive coordinator. If it's just Dak, okay, let's plan for a quarterback change somewhere.
it's
But it was everything, every single part of the team. And that is what's so hard. And the vibes thing that I talked about earlier. How do you
I
fix vibes, man? How do you fix that?
that's the thing.
When CD's
If
having a bad
I
day and it throws off everyone's mojo, what the heck are you supposed to do about that? Is that coaching?
right
Is that players? Who's in charge of that? No one knows.
at the end of
So
the
at least
day,
I don't know.
my thoughts on that, at the end of the day, if it's a vibes thing, if it's offense, defense, special team, whose job is it to look over all of that? The head coach. That's what the head coach is
Mm-hmm.
there for. So it seems like a head coach issue. Actually, I think it's a Jerry Jones issue that just kind of trickled down.
I think it is
And
too.
I think the move to actually the non-move, the lack of a move, and saying we're going to continue rolling with Mike McCarthy is Jerry Jones saying, you know what, this is essentially saying, you know what, this is fine, status quo. He's fine with having a puppet master. He doesn't want somebody. It's like Jerry Jones doesn't want somebody to test him. He wants somebody that he can just kind of like have as his puppet and his talking man. And that's why, like, I know I mentioned Bill Belichick for you guys. Bill Belichick would never, even if him and Jerry Jones have a good relationship, when it's a working relationship, it's different. And I think, thinking about it, after seeing that Mike McCarthy is being retained, like you had mentioned, I don't think those two would work well together. They might be good friends, but, I've had good friends that I would never want to work with, right?
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
don't
where
know.
it
I just
starts,
think it's
but you
it's
can't.
make or break time for Jerry. It's make or break time for the current roster because you can we're going to extend Dak in the offseason. That's kind of our only option.
Yeah.
Once you get to the end of that
Who else?
extension,
Who else are you going to extend?
like,
'Cause you
yeah,
have
exactly.
everybody.
There's no other option. Whether you love Dak or you hate him, you cannot realistically name another option that would be better immediately, and likely it won't be better in the long
You
run.
can name them; they're just not realistic.
Yeah. So the window, if it's not already closed, it's closing fast,
Yep.
and we don't
I feel like
have
we have this
time.
conversation every year. I feel
I
like
mean, it's
every
true.
year we have a
It's
conversation
true for almost every team. It's true for almost
that,
every team.
that the window is
The
gone, and
I sent a meme and it was like the Super Bowl window and it's like some tiny little window someone's holding in their hand.
yep.
It's tiny. It's tiny. It's minuscule. And if you want to take the next step, you have to do something differently. Yeah, McCarthy won 12 games 3 years in a row. Guess how many playoff games we won in those 3 years? One. Against a losing record team. Yeah, it was Tom Brady. Yeah, it was in my eyes, it was still a good playoff win. A lot of people were picking the Bucks to win that game. But you win 12 years in a row, 12 wins 3 years in a row. You win your division twice, and you can't even get out of the divisional round a single time. Something's got to change.
That's
And obviously, head coach is probably the easiest thing to change. I don't know. It's a little scared and complacent to me, especially in this coaching cycle where you have
that is
I
the
don't
other
want
thing
Belichick,
too.
but you can give it a try. Give Vrabel a try if you want. Try to find some sort of offensive coordinator to come in. Give a young guy like Bobby Slowick, Ben Johnson. Who did I say from the Ravens? Mike McDonald.
Like,
Um,
yeah.
give someone a chance. You have to take a chance. If you want to do something you've never done before, you have to do something you've never done before.
You guys need fresh voices in there. Like, you need, like, revamp. It's something needs to change
I don't know,
for
man.
you guys. And, like,
If it
heading into
was
the
any other
playoffs,
team, their GM would have been fired a long time ago. But our GM owns the team and cannot be fired. So Will McClay is the GM, but he's not making the same kind of decisions that a GM would make. He's got Jerry in his ear saying, it's more Jerry's making the decision and Will McClay's in his ear than it is Will McClay's making the decision, but Jerry's in his ear. So Jerry has the final say on everything that happens, and he doesn't know the first thing. Well, he probably does now. He's been in the industry a long time. He probably knows a little bit about football. But
I'd
that's
hope
not his
so.
only priority. That's not his
Yeah.
only priority. I don't know that if he was just a GM, I don't think he would work for anyone else. I don't know that anyone would be lining up to hire him as their next GM. But long rant. Cowboys suck. Disappointing. Sad. Depression. Boo.
Yeah. I will say, hats off to the Packers. Who
Yes, Jordan Love looked very good.
Jordan Love looked like Aaron Rodgers reincarnated out there, which is scary.
Yeah, dude. Like,
scary.
there was multiple times where we had
I started to
pressure,
notice that.
and he just back foot dot. Nothing you can do
Flick of
about
the
that.
wrist, like, it looks like he's barely
It
putting
was
any
bad.
oomph on it. It's a dot.
Scary.
So
That's what good coaching gets you.
good coaching and well-run organization.
PFF guys have been calling it the Josh Allen kind of arc, but in one season. He started off dangerous, not very accurate, and then towards the end of the season has just been money, perfect almost.
I love giving Colin Cowherd a lot of shit when I can, but one thing that he said that kind of stood out to me was at the beginning of the year, Jordan Love was pretty much unplayable. Like, Matt LaFleur was calling games and taking it out of Jordan Love's hands, where now Jordan Love is the guy that you trust to go out there to win you a game. And to your point with the whole Josh Allen arc, like, you went from unplayable to now we're getting legitimate Aaron Rodgers comparisons. But when you are the starting quarterback for a team that's had back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks and success there at the position for the last 30 years, it's your first playoff game, that's what you do. It's pretty high expectations that you've lived up to.
The track record for quarterbacks who sat to start their career is turning into be pretty good.
It's always been good. It's just overlooked because you have guys like one that came out immediately late started. Joe Burrow. He started week 1.
And we're good.
There was a track record
Is that
there.
What you're looking for?
Yeah. Because Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. Josh Allen was not the starter week 1. He wasn't good.
He wasn't even good when he was a starter year 2.
Okay, let's look. Let's look at the playoffs here. CJ Stroud started week 1. I think we like what we see there. I'm pretty sure Deshaun Watson. I'm just looking starting quarterback in general. I'm pretty sure Deshaun Watson was a starter when he arrived in Houston. Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong. Tua was not, but question marks on Tua. Mahomes sat for a year. Love sat for a couple years. Dak played immediately, but he was not supposed to. Matthew Stafford played immediately. Jared Goff, I don't remember. I want to say
he played immediately.
I thought so. I couldn't remember.
He did.
Josh Allen. Baker did not play. That he's part of that Tyrod Taylor, like every quarterback that Tyrod Taylor's backup. Because it was Josh Allen, and then it was Baker, and then it was Herbert. Another one that sat for a minute. Jalen Hurts, whatever your thoughts are on him, he was not the starter immediately. that's just playoffs. Kenny Pickett, he did start. No. It was Mitchell Trubisky because Kenny Pickett came in against the Jets.
hmm
So
I don't know if that's
you have to start.
a positive for us.
I don't know, but at the end of the day, I mean, most of these starting quarterbacks that are in the playoffs were not starters week 1. So I'm a big advocate for sit a quarterback for as long as you can.
Yeah.
And
It's
play
just hard.
them
I
when
think the hardest part about that strategy is having a good quarterback, but also having the draft capital to be able to take a quarterback who you would want to sit. Because you can take a third, fourth round quarterback. Okay, everyone does that. They don't. But taking a first round quarterback like Love and letting him sit for 4 years, that's quite the strategy. That's quite the bold strategy, but it paid off. It looks like so.
Absolutely. Well, Dillon has finally joined us.
My bad.
And don't
That's on me.
echo some more.
It's you joined and Drew and I started echoing.
I can't turn my echo cancellation on, unfortunately.
What happened the last time that everybody was echoing?
I think it's better now. Just turn down your volume on something. I think we're good. Can you hear us?
Anyways, all right. Can you hear?
I can't hear anything now.
We're good.
Oh no. All right.
Hold on.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I think I'll just finish this conversation that we're having. Oh, okay. Never mind then. So let's head over to probably the best playoff game of the weekend. Rams, Lions. That's where we're at right now, Dillon. We had to wait. I was definitely making this longer just to make sure you joined us. So whenever you go back and see the time on this, Dillon, that is why this is a little bit longer.
Okay. I mean, I didn't think that was going to be a problem, knowing your skills of each of you. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
And my shirt,
I had things to say.
My shirt is actually in my car right now, so that's why I don't have it on. But anyways,
all right.
Ooh.
Best playoff game of the weekend, and Dillon, since you just joined, you just joined. I want your thoughts on the game in Detroit. Lions getting their first playoff win in over 30 years. Eminem in the house. It was electric there.
It was a good game. It was a great game, actually. Kind of a typical Lions game. They fought hard. They got big plays out of their stars. Stafford played a really good game too. I don't know what his final numbers ended up being, but I'm pretty sure it was. I think he went over 300 and 3 tutties, if I'm not mistaken.
The Rams win if he's not killed.
Probably. That did happen, but
He was
is what it is. But he did bring a playoff win to Ford Field. Kind of. He might have been paying some homage to his fan base, his people.
He was 25 of 36, 367 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he played great. Really, it was just two good teams going at it. The Lions, they just took more advantage of their opportunities than the Rams did, and ultimately it came down to 1 point, and that's the difference sometimes. And really, I don't really have much negatives to say about this game. I think it was, really the matchup, and that's why they put it on the Sunday night, right? I mean, it was the matchup everyone wanted to see, and it was your playoff battle, down to the wire. Rams had a shot to get the win, but just that they couldn't get the stop late, and then. That's all I have on that game, really. Just a really fun game to watch. Puka Nacua is going to be so good for so long.
9 catches, 181 and a touchdown.
Just unbelievable that he turned out to be the player that he is, just thriving in that system. Be interesting to see how much longer Stafford, can play. From an age perspective, he's getting up there, and then just his style of getting murdered on the field routinely, is gonna catch up with him sooner or later. And if it hasn't already, I know he was battling a lot of injuries this year, and I don't know how old he is these days, maybe like 36 or something like that,
The
37.
thought came to my mind that the
35.
reason
35.
he came back into the game after essentially being knocked out was maybe we're seeing a last ride for Stafford. But
Yeah,
if they
his
weren't
wife
poised
said
to
something.
be good next season, I think that would probably be more likely.
Yeah.
But
what I would do to watch Matthew Stafford play one season in a Steelers jersey, I would do a lot to watch that happen. He's got Steeler written all over him. Chris Collinsworth was like, bro, looks like a Steeler out there just randomly.
I
don't know why he said
dude.
that. I don't know why he said that, but he did, and I was like, kind of makes sense. I could see it.
We're in the
Stafford would look
chat.
great.
We're in the chat. Dylan's like, did he just say something about the Steelers? And
I
that's
didn't
the only
hear
thing I
it
caught.
first, and I was like, what? Yeah.
So
he's not the worst commentator though. We'll get to that here in a little bit.
We will. With the Matthew Stafford thing, I'm pretty sure his wife Kelly put something on Instagram about excited for another year. Pretty much, I think she pretty much confirmed that he will be back for another year. So we will more than likely get one more year of Matthew Stafford. Hopefully he's healthy because as he's shown this year, when he's healthy, he's still a top quarterback. Like they're not making
He's got top 3 arm talent in the NFL. I mean, that list gets really crowded at the top, but you're looking at like Mahomes, Herbert. What'd you do? Just turn me way down?
He's messing with the echo cancellation and the noise.
So all right, hopefully I'm still heard, but you got Mahomes, you got Herbert, and then like you start to talk about guys like Stafford. I mean, he's always had the arm talent. That's why he was taken first overall, no doubt for a reason. He's a Super Bowl winner. He's a future Hall of Fame quarterback in my mind.
I think so.
Yeah, just if he can stay healthy,
First
he can
ballot,
put together
I
magical
don't know,
runs.
I think
I don't know. It'll depend on what his career numbers end up looking like.
And who he's fighting
he was
for
never,
in each and every class to get in.
He was never an MVP candidate consideration, but he was always a top 10 quarterback in the league, and just one of the most talented throwers of the ball the NFL's had. So
the thing that killed the Rams in this game was the red zone. Not being able to convert in the red zone, all their touchdowns came off of big plays. It was a 50-yard touchdown and a 38-yard touchdown, and Puka just did his thing.
Their last possession, where they ended up deciding to kick the field goal to go down by 1. I think that's pretty cowardly. And I'm not sure that I would have made the same decision.
Well, it was with
I don't know exactly what they were yard and distance from the end zone at the time, but either way,
let me see.
Close to the end of the game.
I think I was thinking about that, but they took a sack or something, and it became a really tough 4th down play.
It was a 29-yard field. It was a 29-yard field goal. So
it was 4th and 8 at the 11 with 8 minutes left in the ball game.
Yeah. So you're thinking that you're going to have another chance.
And they did. They got the Lions went 3 and out, and they got the ball back, and they drove down the field to the Detroit 44. Yeah, so they made it kind of brink of field goal range to the Detroit 34. They had a holding penalty that pushed them out of field goal range back to the 44, and then it was 4th and 14 with 4 minutes left. And I believe they had all 3 of their timeouts. No, I take that back. They had the 2-minute warning, and they had 1 timeout.
They used 2 timeouts like early in the 3rd quarter, I think.
Yeah, they didn't kick a field goal from there? How long is a field goal from the 44? Or did 44,
they move back? 54, it'd been like 61.
7, yeah.
61 with Maher. He could also hook it 80 yards left.
The only thing he's good at is kicking long field goals.
Yeah,
put him any closer, and he's terrible.
I'd be curious to see what the punt, go for it predictor said, if that was a cowardly punt, because it was 4th and 14, so it's like going for that is tough.
I don't remember.
But I mean, what's the difference between that and punting? What's the difference between that and punting? If you're going to go for it
Field
on 4th and
position.
14 or you punt, I mean, your punts only netted you like 30 yards.
Yeah, let's
'Cause
say
they were
you
at the
punt
44.
and pin them down at. Let's say you get a nice punt and they fair catch
It
at
wasn't.
the 10.
It wasn't even a nice punt. It was at the 17.
No, it was a shank. I'm pretty sure it was a shank.
Yeah, so you're gonna give up possibly taking the lead for 30 yards of field position.
It was a 28-yard net punt. So, yeah, if you might as well just have went for it at that point. So,
I'm letting Maher
as
kick that.
as
Money
as
Maher.
Mike Tomlin says, that's living in your fears.
He's got a lot of
Yeah,
confidence.
Maher is shanking that ball though. He's
Lions
not hitting
win.
that field goal.
No, he's not. He's hitting it. That's the only thing he's good at. I promise.
He's not.
It's the only thing. When we
Anyway.
played the Lions or when we played the Vikings
That's fine.
last
That's
year,
fine. But the minute he has to do it in a playoff game, it's not what he does. That is what
Hey,
he
does
made
not
his
do.
field goals in our playoff game. He just couldn't kick extra points.
Kickers were doing
what
what
I'm
they
saying.
usually don't in this game because Michael Badgley does not do well in 50 plus or whatever, and he nailed a 54-yard field goal in this one. So it was kind of opposite day for those kickers out there. But good, again, great win for the Lions, and I think, knock on wood, they're going to get another. I
Thinking
think they're
about
going to
the
get another
Lions
win.
winning and their path
I think.
to the NFC Championship makes me so sad.
Yep.
As
we
you should.
lose,
Did you
and now
did you
the
already go through the
Lions-
Cowboys game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you think
That
it's
was-
lasted so long?
Yeah.
The Lions win, and they got to play the Rams. Then, because the Cowboys lose, they get to be at home and play the Bucks.
Against the Buccaneers, bro. But
And then
Buccaneers might win it all this year. Gill knows.
Oh, yeah.
They might.
They might. You sent that to me too, or Gill sent that to me.
Oh,
One of you did.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Somebody.
They might do it.
Destiny?
Either way, the path for them to make it to the NFC Championship game is amazingly easy.
Yeah, they
if
just got to
the
win
Packers
one
decide
more, right?
that they just want to be godly for some reason, the Lions could find themselves hosting a NFC Championship game. Now, I think the odds of
That would
that
be
are pretty
crazy.
slim.
That would be crazy.
I was sent a tweet today that the average ticket price for this Lions game is $1,000.
Well, the
Wow.
average ticket price for the wild card game was the highest ticket price for a wild card game ever, if I recall correctly.
If the Lions
was,
host
and it was a
the
Ford Field record.
NFC Championship game, they're gonna
Dude.
Oh my
it's gonna be
God.
Super Bowl prices. Super Bowl
Dude.
prices.
Dude, it's going to go crazy.
And I know people going to the divisional game. It's insane.
I had a coworker that was at the wild card game.
That's awesome.
Just,
There was a lot of people there.
I feel like I knew a lot of people that were there. Which, I mean,
I mean, it's
30
This is a
years.
once in a lifetime opportunity for Lions fans. It's never happening again,
Absolutely.
apparently. Statistically.
So, do we have
Anyways,
anything else?
Still good to
touch
see
on?
that though. Still good to see that.
I know. I'm
Lions.
so happy for Lions fans, and at this moment, my dream Super Bowl matchup is Texans Lions. Are we going to get that?
Yeah, that'd be
Absolutely
cool.
not. But that'd be pretty fun.
Does that satisfy the color requirement?
Texans might if you're doing
Unless
the blue
you
and
count the
blend some
blue
stuff.
of the
You blend some
Lions as
stuff.
purple, and then you take the red from the Texans.
Well,
See,
you
that's how you
blend the
kinda-
blue and the red to get the purple.
So where do the Lions come with the
Blue.
you okay, so you blend the Lions blue and Texans red, and then
The Texans
you-
are also red.
and then just
'Cause
Texans
they're gonna
also
wear-
red. Okay.
The Texans will wear their red uniforms. Yeah,
Okay.
there's some sort of math
Gotcha.
there. going
All
on.
right, I got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yep. Sure.
So, Lions Super Bowl dreams still alive. Dillon Super Bowl dreams well and dead.
Damn.
That must be the transition. Is that the transition?
It is.
All of our teams are sitting on the couch, dude. It's week one of the playoffs, and we're all at home.
We're all at home.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, that's going to happen. I mean, there's only what 8 teams remaining in the NFL right now. But yeah, I mean, we can dive into this game. Just extremely disappointing, and I'll be doing a full recap episode and like early off-season thoughts, probably after Tomlin speaks in his press conference on Thursday, which I guess this video will go up on Thursday. Disappointing because they could have won this game. If you don't turn the ball over as many times as they did right off the bat, I mean, Buffalo was always gonna score. But you can't give them easy opportunities. So, the Steelers get the ball first. They drive down the field, and then the drive stalls. Kind of right at midfield, and then you have a terrible punt from your punter that only goes about 20 yards, and then the Buffalo drives down, they score, okay, they go up 7-0. That's fine. Then you come right back out with a chance to answer, and I don't remember chronologically which way this happened, but I believe the interception happened next. I could be wrong. No, I don't think so. I think the George Pickens fumble happened next. Regardless, so you get a chance to go down and tie up the game. And the offense had been moving the ball at this point. I mean, they were moving the ball pretty easily. You get a very first play of that drive, a nice little rollout, 8-yard pitch and catch. George turns upfield, ball slips out of his hands, fumble. Bills get it, and they score within like 2 plays, puts them up 14-0. Then it's like, dang, okay, now you're in a hole. Offense drives all the way down the field. They get into the, and goal territory, and Mason Rudolph goes back to 2019, throws a pick right at the cornerback. Deontay absolutely not fighting for that ball at all. Kind of on the wide receiver, also on Mason for throwing it. Dang it, like you had it, you pull it in within 1 score right there, and you got yourself a ball game. Instead, you don't get any points. Buffalo drives down the field, scores a touchdown again. Now it's 21-0, and it's like, I was like, man, maybe this is worse than what Drew was feeling, because it was, 21-0 off rip is wow. Like it was brutal. But it wasn't in Heinz Field, at least, so that, and it's not called Acrisure Stadium, but that was the one. But like, the offense was moving the ball just fine. It's just stupid turnovers that ruined that game. And then you dig yourself into a hole, 21-0. Your win probability is like 1%. It's like, now you're just fighting to survive. You don't even have a game plan at this point. You're just scratching and clawing. And they do make it a game. They end up fighting back. They bring it to within 1 score in the fourth quarter. All you need is a stop from that defense that carried you through this season, the defense that is supposed to be the saving grace of this team, and just Swiss cheese, back-to-back penalties on the 7th string inside linebacker Miles Jack. One of them extremely questionable because that ball was thrown 80 yards out of bounds, and they called defensive holding, which is absurd, by the way. One penalty called on the Bills all game. I'm not saying the refs are why the Steelers lost the game. It's obviously not. You can't throw an interception in the goal line. You can't fumble the ball on your own, like 20-yard line, and expect to win. But that doesn't help either. Clearly, the NFL wanted their Chiefs-Bills game in their script. So Steelers were never going to overcome that. But regardless, I'm not going to harp on that. But that call was absurd. And that would have put either, a 2nd and 10 or a 3rd and 10 and allowed the Steelers to try to get off the field. Instead, it's an automatic first down, move the ball 5 yards up. And then again, at that point, it's just Swiss cheese defense. No TJ Watt in this game was felt tremendously. Just not a lot of pressure generated. They kept blitzing. No one was getting home. Patrick Peterson is washed. Just whiffs on Josh Allen. And I get it. Josh Allen's a hard guy to sack, but just whiffs. And then Josh Allen does magic and rolls out and hits Stephon Diggs for a 20-yard gain that Joey Porter gets smashed from behind on a very cheap shot, dirty hit, gets him sent out of the game with a concussion. No call on that. That's a personal foul 10 times out of 10. If the defense would have done that, that's helmet to helmet, 15 yards every time. But, that was a missed call as well. Again, no calls on the Bills until very late in the fourth quarter was the first penalty called on the Bills, I believe. And just sad. A game the Steelers could have won. But what has shown to happen is that now, I believe the statistic is, in the last 5 postseason games, and the Steelers are now 0-5 in those previous 5 postseason games. I think it's the 2nd longest drought in the postseason, only behind Miami. The Steelers are now outscored in the first half, or in the first quarter, 66-0, I believe. And by the end of the first half, they have a point differential of -72 or -76. So this team routinely comes out flat in the last 5 postseason games, just not ready at all. And then you're just digging yourself out of a hole, and it's very hard to win in the postseason that way. The formula getting here was not turning the ball over, playing smart, playing good defense, and running the ball, and they failed at literally all 3 of those things and started this game down 21-0. So to see this team come out unprepared again just makes you really upset with the coaching. Mike Tomlin, great coach, Hall of Fame coach. He said he's coming back for 2024, which I'm fine with. But why does this team continue to come out flat? I mean, that part is something that is very tough to handle, and it does start at the top. But it also, the leadership of the players too is a problem. Why there's no accountability there. So unfortunate.
Coaching.
Bills were the better team. Of course, they were more talented. They were more in their championship window. They have a superstar quarterback, and so that's why they were favored by double digits going into this game. Just unfortunate that had the Steelers played the way they did to get them here, they probably could have won that game. So, and no TJ Watt, but yeah, so just sad. And then, where do you go from here, right? You got a big quarterback decision to make, which I will save a lot of those talks for my Steelers episode. I got a lot of emotions and feelings on that. Love Kenny Pickett, would love for him to be the guy. Nobody knows if he's going to be the guy. Last year, everyone was like, oh, Colin Cowherd, everyone on ESPN that thinks they know what they're talking about. Oh, Pittsburgh's got their franchise guy. They're going to be fine. Now it's, oh, Kenny Pickett sucks. No one believes in this guy. You got to go make a trade. It flip-flops like that every year, and it's all results-oriented. I get that. It's also tough, with the statistics, the way they did look, and it's tough to make a decision on because you need
Zach
results
Wilson
now.
2.0. Zach Wilson 2.0.
I mean,
that's all I'm hearing.
To a certain extent. So we'll see, and I'll touch more on that. You got to nail the offensive coordinator hire moving forward. I mean, that's where it starts. You got to nail that. You don't hire from within. Don't take an experiment. I mean, you got to nail that hire, and if you don't, it's not going to be good. There's a statistic this season in the NFL. Pittsburgh had the 3rd youngest offense and the oldest defense. That's not good. Their defense is very slow. The offense has pieces. I mean, the pieces are in place. You got your running backs, you got your wide receivers. O-line needs work, especially on the interior, but you need a quarterback and you need an offensive coordinator to guide that ship. And then I think you just need to add some more pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, go ahead, Drew. Sorry,
nothing important.
I've been rambling. Yeah,
I was just saying, nothing important. Just a few pieces there.
Yeah. All you need is just an amazing quarterback and an offensive coordinator. That's all you need. Rather than
that's all you
need. Honestly, though, the Steelers roster, if you take quarterback out of all the rosters, and obviously that's very easy to say because it's like the most important position. Steelers are top 8, top 7 roster, but when you're bottom 5 in quarterback, that's what you get. So very hard ask, obviously. I mean, there's going to be names floated out there. Like I've seen a lot of Kirk Cousins today. I've seen a lot of Justin Fields today. I've seen a lot of run it back with Mason Rudolph today. I haven't seen like any run it back with Kenny Pickett. Apparently the world is over that, even though people forget super quickly what his last game was before he got hurt when he torched the Bengals. But
I can't see Kirk Cousins in a Steelers uniform.
Party Chat Sports might go up in flames if that happens.
I can see Justin Fields in the Steelers uniform, though.
I can see that one.
If you remember Mike Tomlin at Justin Fields' pro day, I don't know if you guys remember this, but he was in the background of when Justin Fields was throwing, just like doing his smiling Mike Tomlin creepy face, and he loves the guy. So, I kind of look at, the
frown thing.
He's good at that too. But he had the wide eye, like just smile going on watching Justin Fields' pro day. So, I could see like a Sam Darnold-esque or a Carson Wentz-esque trade where Pittsburgh sends like a 3 and a 5 or something for Fields. Is that similar to what those trades were, Gill? You'd remember that Sam Darnold trade initially.
I was thinking like when you started that, I was thinking like now, like you would trade like for Sam Darnold type now for 3 and 5, and like whoa, that's way too much. Sam Darnold went for a 2 and a 4,
and that was
and
clearly
maybe
overpaying
something
in
else.
hindsight.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what Wentz went for.
I think Wentz went for like 2-2, something like that.
And that was high. I mean,
Wentz was a conditional 1. I don't know if they met the condition or not.
I don't think they did. That's why they got it too. I think that's why it was 2 or something like that.
Yeah, the thing is, both of those, like Wentz had a Pro Bowl season under his belt, so he was obviously the more expensive of the two. Darnold had shown flashes, so I think Fields' price would be closer to Darnold's right now.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
Trey
all
Lance
year,
went for a 4.
Yeah, Trey Lance went for. He's very similar to Trey Lance too. Physical attribute guy.
Take Trey Lance and give him multiple years of experience, so you're paying probably at least a second.
I've seen a lot of 3 on Twitter talk, so that's why I was kind of like, maybe you do a 3.
3 if you do some multiple
3 in a late.
things.
Yeah, 3 in a late round pick. The problem is going to be contract oriented because Fields' 5th-year option. I believe the decision has to be made this offseason. So
I think,
and again, I don't know that the Steelers roster is in a position to just get another unproven guy. I just don't think that's like they already have that in Kenny. If they want to just roll with the young guy, you just stick with Kenny. You don't start over with the guy that doesn't even know the system. Even though I would love to see Fields in a Steelers uniform.
Kenny doesn't know the system yet because you guys don't have
the system's going to be new. It's going to be a new system, thankfully.
Yeah,
so that part, that part's fine.
I don't see the issue.
Yeah. I think with Justin Fields, there's going to be some condition for 2025. Like you're going to get.
I would love to see him throw deep balls to George Pickens. That's all I'm saying. I would love it.
That'll be nice. But
a little read option with Najee and Jalen Warren action.
Some RPO stuff.
Triple option. Get Jalen Warren and Najee in the backfield at the same time.
Yes, sir.
I've seen
maybe a
some
Calvin Austin jet sweep action. Fire me up, man. I don't care.
Idiotic.
As long as it scores points, I don't care what it looks like or who's under center. That it could be Kirk Cousins. If it brings a Super Bowl, it's all that matters.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I've seen some idiotic takes on what draft compensation is going to look like for the Bears. Like I've seen them say, "Oh, we could get the 8th pick from the Falcons. We could have 8 and 9." Like I think I said this
in any world
a week ago. The only way
I think Cam had
the
sent
Bears,
that.
He might have shared it. I think he might have shared that. The only way the Bears get the 8th overall pick is if it's a pick swap. They're not picking both 8 and 9. So Bears fans, get that out of your head right now. You're not having both the 8th and the 9th picks. It would be a pick swap. And then I think.
Where are they sitting at right now? Are they 1 and 3?
9.
Is that? Or are they 1 and? Yeah,
they're 1 and 9.
Is it at 1 and 9? Okay,
they're 9.
Huh?
Yeah, they have like 7 wins.
Yeah, they went 7 and 10.
Yeah, they did go on a roll there at the end of the year, so that kind of ruined that for them.
I think trade for Justin Fields is going to be some sort of pick in this year, like a 3rd, and then some condition for 2025 that's going to be contract based, like if
or playtime based
or playtime. It's going to be some condition based off of playtime and contract. Like if the Falcons give a new contract to Justin Fields, then a pick like a 2 or a 1 or something like that goes back.
And that's the other thing too. I think a different team is willing to spend more. I feel like a different team like the Falcons would be willing to spend more draft capital on a trade for Fields than the Steelers would. I don't think the Steelers would be that aggressive for that. They're going to be more in the vein of like signing a Kirk Cousins if he does hit the market, or sending like a late something for like a Russell Wilson, like just to get like a 1-year rental on Russell Wilson. However that would mathematically shake out, I don't know, but that I see more of that. Have Kenny sit for another year, and then I don't even know what would happen at that point. It would be a very weird short-term problem, but
Zach Wilson 2.0.
That's fine. At this point, I'll go much more in depth. Obviously, I want to see Kenny succeed. I think a lot of people would like to see Kenny succeed, but the NFL is a short time frame of showing it, that you got it or that you don't got it. So,
Drew, Steelers,
That's what it
Bills.
is.
You have anything to add?
No.
Bills are scary. That's the only other thing. The Bills were the least team I wanted to see in that game, and that was why, because they're really good.
And
I will eat my words because I said
It's-
earlier that
Josh
they were
Allen
dead.
Josh Allen is a very unique player. Very funny.
just ask Tony Romo.
Also, let me just jump in real
He's
quick.
out
You're
there.
not allowed to fake slide. You're not
It was
allowed.
not
That
a
is
fake
against the
slide.
rules.
It was not a fake
It
slide.
It was not a fake
He
slide.
thought he
It
was going to
not.
slide, so the Steelers defender
He,
stopped.
he
then
did
he
some
kept
weird
running,
footwork, but he never
and he trucked
dipped
Casey.
down.
He did
or
like a little
anything.
Later in the game, he did slide, and the Steelers players hit him because they did not know if he was going to fake or not. So that should
I don't
not.
think that was
He
a fake
should have
slide.
been
I
ruled
do
down.
agree that there is too much safe space when quarterbacks are running the ball.
Yep.
Although I don't think that was a fake slide.
I do.
Agreed.
I mean, I think
agree with
Josh, he didn't mean to fake slide, but he started to slide, started the
definitely not-
operation of starting to slide, and then he saw that, oh, wait, there's all this green grass, and then he kept running, and he trucked Casey into the ground. Get him off the team. I
It
hate
wasn't like
Casey.
the-
He's the
it wasn't
worst
like the-
player we have.
It was nothing like the Kenny Pickett fake slide. Like
No,
that
that
was
was
a fake
sick.
slide.
That was
sweet,
that was
but
swaggy.
Josh
I
Allen's
miss
actual
that
fake
version
slide.
of Kenny, bro. I miss that version. Where he
Josh
was
Allen just did
slinging
kind of
it.
like a weird little stutter step thing,
Yeah,
and
he
then kept running.
No, he went from leaning forward to leaning back because he was going to start to slide. Anyway, move on.
Anyways.
That I'll talk more
All right.
about this later.
Final game of the weekend. And this game ended up deciding who won the pick'ems between Drew and I. We were tied heading into this one. I picked the Buccaneers,
The Cowboys
Drew
fan
picked
picked
the
the
Eagles,
Eagles.
and it was ironic that his pick'ems victory rested on, well, the hands of the Eagles, and that proved to be very faulty very fast, as the Buccaneers just completely had their way with the Eagles, and there's so much here. Like, coaching was terrible, and I think you saw everything that was wrong with the Eagles, kind of like what the Cowboys. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and anything
Stop the
that
tush push.
the tush push got stopped. When you saw that, it was like, all right, well, this is definitely not their day. So I drew up a little
I
diagram.
think Vita Vea is one of the only players that can have that kind of effect.
He's a strong man. He's a strong man.
I drew up
Let's
a
see his
diagram.
He is
though.
a
I drew up a
large
diagram, okay?
dude.
So with the Eagles,
Wow.
they had they call screen passes, they call forwards. What the Buccaneers do a lot is they blitz. They bring a lot of blitz. So I don't know how well you can see this diagram.
Look at this.
Pretty much,
You can film.
what's open? The middle of the field, right? That's
I see it.
okay. So like the Bucs constantly drop into coverage and they blitz.
That's
a lot.
engage 8 right there. That's what that is.
Exactly. They bring a lot of blitz. That's the first thing that just came to mind. And then this is open. Guess where the Eagles never threw?
In the middle of the field.
Here.
There's a Matt Cannon
one
offense
time-
right there.
The one time I noticed that this guy was running a slant, and then this corner came in on a blitz. You want to
Those
know what
should be
happened on that
O's.
play?
Sorry,
know.
just to interject.
I
Those
know.
should be O's. You got
They
it's
should
all
be.
X's. That's not how
I
it
know.
works.
I know. I was doing this quick. This corner came in on a blitz, and this wide receiver had a slant. You want to know what happened on that play? Big yardage. Why aren't you attacking the blitz? You know that this team is going to blitz. If I'm an Eagles,
was the
I'm not even
statistic?
an Eagles fan.
What was
And
the
I'm
screen
irritated.
statistic on their yards? What was that?
I think it's fake.
We
I was
can't
kinda
promote
wondering
fake
that.
things.
I didn't.
I saw that
I
it
had
was
seen
fake,
that.
but I wish it was real. And I believe
If
it's
it's
real. I'm
real-
anti-screen.
You're very anti-screen. Pretty much, they
Stupid.
throw screens more than any other team in the league. And the offensive play calling has been terrible the entire year for the Eagles. It's the same thing. It's screen, it's four verts, and it's run.
Nothing's
sort of
worse than run pass though. I just want to say that that's the worst.
There's no
Yeah.
creativity, and The Jets and the 49ers showed you exactly how you stop this Eagles defense. You bring
Nick
pressure.
Bosa said it.
You bring pressure. You put pressure in Jalen Hurts' face because there's nobody for him to throw to over the middle. It is constantly for Verts. Yeah, Jalen Hurts looked bad this year. Yeah, he had a down year. But he was not helped at all. Hey, kitty. He was not helped at all by his play calling, by his offensive coaches. It is terrible. And on the defensive side for the Eagles, they were Swiss cheese. They were Swiss cheese the entire game, the entire season. And that will happen when you have Matt Patricia calling plays. Last thing I'll say before I leave it off to you guys. Congrats to the Buccaneers, because they definitely earned this game. They earned this win. They prepared for this. They game planned. They knew how to take advantage of the Eagles' weaknesses, unlike the other team. And they attacked. They went out there. They wanted to win, where the Eagles just, it's like they were just showing up for a paycheck in the playoffs. And when Troy Aikman on the broadcast is saying, like, this Eagles team doesn't look like they want to be here, that's concerning.
That's tough.
That's concerning.
Frauds. It made me feel a little bit better. Obviously, we both went out sad. I can't say I feel bad for them, but I do know how many of them are probably feeling. Anyways, they're in a tough spot. Sirianni has not been fired yet, but as Gill and I were talking before the podcast started, I saw that when Peterson was fired, how that process went was he went into the meeting with the Eagles owner, Lori, I think his name is, something like that. And the reason that Peterson was fired, supposedly, was that he didn't like Peterson's plan. Lori didn't like Peterson's plan at the coordinator spots. I'm sure there's other things thrown in there, but that was one of the main reasons. Sirianni is almost in the exact same situation. The coordinators this year were a disaster. Sirianni himself isn't an answer. He already had to give up play calling duties last year, I think it was. So it's not like him starting to call plays is going to be the answer. He has to find some coordinators that will step in. If he doesn't, he could be gone. Jason Kelce, who did not retire, as it was reported by Schefter. I imagine he probably still will, but technically he has not yet.
Schefter's
the Eagles team is still an extremely talented team. It's another thing. I think it comes back to coaching. When you have guys that are talented and they're just not performing quite right, that's where coaching can come in and take the next step. Because you see teams where, like the Lions last year and the year before that, where they're not a talented team, but they're playing hard and they're staying close in games. Name whatever other team, and maybe even throw the Texans in that. Maybe they're not as talented all around, but look at what they're doing with a new coach. I think that's kind of where maybe the Cowboys fall into that situation. Maybe that's where the Eagles are. You have pieces. You definitely have some holes. Their defensive backs are terrible. And you have one of the best offensive lines in the league. You have two great receivers. One was injured. You have a good tight end. You have a bunch of running backs, and
Swift is good.
You just collapse. That falls on coaching, I think, a lot more than the players. Obviously, players bring an element to it. If you got guys quitting or whatever, a lot of people were talking about Bradbury's tackling in this game. I was pretty miserable. Like, that is probably a player issue, but big picture, a collapse. You go 7 games and go 1-6 after starting 10-1. There's a lot of almost like exactly what I said about the Cowboys. there's blame to be had by multiple people. It's not just Sirianni. It's not just Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. It's not just Hurts. It's a mixture of all three. How do you fix that? I don't know. If you know how, you'll make a lot of money making decisions. I do not, for one, know exactly how to make that work. And I hope it doesn't. I hope they make all the wrong decisions. I hope they make the worst decision possible. Whatever's the worst decision, I hope they make that one.
I will say on the whole coaching thing, if you have players that aren't buying in, that's not coaching, I think. Because part of the coach's job is to get the player to buy in and trust the process and all that cliche bullshit a lot of times. But
Mike Tomlin would win a Super Bowl on the Eagles in his first year.
Probably. Dillon?
You probably say that for a lot of the high, good coaches, though. So would Andy Reid. So would other people.
Andy Reid had his chance with the Eagles.
It's true, but not these Eagles. I only have one thing to add to this game. Sorry, Gill, if I interrupted you. Were you done with your thought?
Yeah.
Good for the Bucs, man. Good for them. Todd Bowles had gotten a lot of hate this year with how the Bucs were ran. Good for Baker. Now with 2 wins to Cleveland's 1. Love that for him. He also cashed in again on a $250,000 check for winning that game, so good for him on the incentives. He's another guy that was linked to the Steelers. That would be very weird, so I don't even want to go down that path right now. I think he stays on the Bucs. I think they keep him long term. But a guy that's always played hard at quarterback, good for him finding a home that seems to appreciate him. And that team played hard. That was a team that was hosting a playoff game. They weren't favored in that game, and they didn't care. They stuck to their game plan. They took it to the Eagles, and they defeated the Eagles on the field and mentally as well. So not sure how big of a chance they have going into Detroit. I'm sure they're going to play hard and probably will be another good game. I feel like they got pieces, they got weapons. They're not as talented as Detroit, I don't think. But if they play like that again, that'll be another good game to watch. So yeah, just happy for Tampa Bay and how they've kind of rose out of this season of the NFC South being trash, and they've really come into their own here, and they won a playoff game. So, at the very least, they got that, and they have a roster that they can start to build around. Todd Bowles probably saved his job for at least another year, because if not, he was probably on the hot seat. So, yeah, and then the Eagles are fraudulent. I think we had kind of hinted at that a lot throughout this year. I know, Drew, you have very much been on that bandwagon for a long time now. But they were showing signs of fraudulentness throughout the year.
Even during
and it came to a full
even during their 10-game win streak.
Yeah, and they were winning.
Because you could
they were
see
winning
the signs, and that's why their wins were so frustrating. It's
they were winning in fluky ways,
this close
and it's
to blowing it, or they were this close to,
or the team that they were playing blew it in some way, and then it's like Eagles win again. So
it was like the Vikings the year before, and
right,
the Steelers,
Cardinals the year before that, then the Steelers the year before that.
Yeah. There's always that team, right? There's always that team. So I wonder who it'll be next year.
Eagles reportedly were laughing and celebrating in the hotel as the Cowboys were getting their butts kicked. So glad they didn't get to celebrate that too much.
There was a lot of Cleveland Twitter. There was a lot of Cleveland Twitter going on as well during the Steelers game. It was a lot of rent-free going on.
We can get a Jalen Hurts and Dak collab Target run in Cabo or Cancun. They can film together their Target shopping.
A couple more things I wanted to point out. Baker, on him, this is when he's at his best, is when people are doubting him. That's just kind of where he thrives. He thrives with that chip on his shoulder. Like when people were starting to get back on the Baker train at the end of the year, that's kind of when things started to slow down. And now that people are doubting the Bucs, they were not favored. The Eagles were favored. That's when Baker thrived. So that should make it a good game in Detroit because Detroit, I'm willing to bet is favorite in that one. The offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, he's earning him definitely some head coaching
You're
interviews.
favored by 6.5. If that's what you're
Detroit
looking
is.
at. Last I
Definitely
saw.
great win. For the Bucks. On the Eagles side of things, the collapse was just wild. I got a buddy out in Philly, and he's an Eagles fan, but he's more casual. So he sees that Eagles are constantly
I know
winning.
one of
It's like,
them.
all right, how do we go from being one of the best teams in the league to losing to a team that we beat 25-11? And I'm like, because you weren't the best team in the league. Yeah, we were. The record says you were. The eye test never said the Eagles were the best team.
That's Drew's favorite
no
thing,
point.
the eye test. That's his
Eye
favorite.
test.
You know what
That's-
actually said the Eagles weren't the best team and is not an eye test? The fact that they had the worst point differential of a 10-1 team like ever.
Yeah.
That'll
also
tell you
telling.
what you need to know. You don't need the eyeballs for that.
That's definitely.
I mean, you need eyeballs to see the stat on the on the screen or on the.
Not true. You could have it in Braille if you wanted.
Yeah, if someone puts it in Braille for you and you, Eagles are fraudulent. They have a negative point differential.
You got to go back over, make sure you feel the minus sign. But once you do,
yeah,
they're
like,
you're
wow,
locked in.
Eagles have scored 100 more points in there. Oh, negative. Oh, wow, not good.
So it's definitely wild to see the rise and fall of the Eagles. Last year in the Super Bowl, this year they might be getting rid of their head coach. And Diana Rossini with ESPN is the one that's been kind of tweeting out the updates, like the update on how Nick Sirianni has been reaching out to available coaches, and she then quote tweeted that saying it might suggest Sirianni's safe. He's hasn't met with the owner Jeff Lurie. An hour ago, Rossini said that Sirianni will meet with Lurie and will be expected to have a plan for how he is going to improve the Eagles. This will include potential new coordinators, assistant coaches, and this is why coaches around the league have been contacted. So, like Drew's been saying, depending on how that meeting goes, is going to be dependent on how or if Sirianni sells his job. And some people were wondering, like, is there precedent for that, like a coach to loot or be in a Super Bowl and be fired immediately? It happened with John Fox and the Broncos. When the Broncos lost to the Seahawks, the next year, they fired John Fox and then hired Gary Kubiak. Gary Kubiak then won the Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. So for anybody that's wondering if this ever happens, it happened as recently as Peyton Manning being on the Broncos. So we'll see how everything shapes up there. Anything else we got to touch on before?
I would not be surprised if the Eagles were aggressive in this coaching cycle. There's a lot of good candidates, a lot of good veteran coaches.
Yep.
What
would you do if Brad Johnson went to the Eagles? What would you do?
Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson, sorry.
Brad Johnson is their offensive coordinator, isn't it?
Brian Johnson. Brad Johnson.
There's a lot of B. Johnsons.
Brad Johnson was the quarterback for the Buccaneers. I think Brad Johnson was the Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Buccaneers, or played for the Buccaneers at some point. He wore number 14.
You know who I was talking about? How would you feel about that?
I saw him projected to the Commanders, so I guess he's an NFC East guy.
I feel like
that would be unfortunate.
That's the enemy's job.
That would be very unfortunate.
It's not.
It's
got to be the enemy's job, right?
No. I've not seen.
He's never going to be a head coach. Is Bieniemy just never going to make that step?
Out of all, I've been kind of following the coaching cycle because the offseason is kind of where I thrive in general. So I follow the coaching cycle. Eric Bieniemy, not a single head coach interview request for him, and same thing for Brian Flores. Those two, not a single head coach interview request.
Brian Flores has been blacklisted by the NFL. That's a separate deal.
I mean, he was.
But
in the running for the Texans job last
Brian
year,
Flores
or
will
the
be the
Saints,
next Steelers head coach. You heard it here first. Whether that's next year or in 3 years, that's my prediction. That's my way too early Steelers head coach prediction for you.
I think with the Eagles, I would not be surprised if Lurie leaves that meeting with Sirianni, reaches out to some people, kind of tests the waters on like Vrabel, Belichick, and see like if any of those guys would be interested. And if they're not interested, he's going to continue rolling with Sirianni. If there is any interest from those sides, they're going to move off Sirianni and they're going to go all in on one of those high priority coaches. That's kind of, there's going to be some back channeling and just,
I mean, the
kind of
Eagles,
closed door
the
stuff.
Cowboys and the Eagles job, if they opened up, would have been the best job.
Yep.
For the Cowboys, if you don't think about Jerry Jones being in the ear the whole time. For the Eagles, if you don't think about the epic collapse from the defense and the offense as well. But still, the pieces are there to make a very quick turnaround.
Yeah. About 4 hours ago, 4 or 5 hours ago, I was ready to hop on this podcast and say, at least one of the Eagles and Cowboys jobs is going to be open. We know now that the Cowboys job is not. We're waiting to see on the Eagles. Anything else we got to touch on?
We touched on a lot.
We did.
Yeah,
for a
not
long
tonight.
time.
There will be many more videos and content coming in the coming weeks, I'm sure, to touch on all things from.
Dillon, I'm sure you'll appreciate my very long PFF spiel.
Oh, good. I was going to touch on that. Shout out to JJ Watt for hating on him.
I already talked about it.
Good. Good. Hopefully we're on the same wavelength there.
It doesn't sound like
we're not at all. Not even close.
It does not sound like you guys are. So hopefully everybody enjoyed
PFF? Hold on.
Yeah.
I do. I very much do. Listen to the podcast, the part you weren't in.
This will be a whole nother podcast discussion if we need to get to it. Let's wrap this one up by thanking everybody for listening, watching. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe at Party Chat Sports on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter or X. Stop it, Dillon. You don't wear your shirt. Boo. Boo this man. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hope you all have a great division round of watching that will start Saturday. Texans, Ravens, 4:30 p.m. We'll see how everything unfolds. And until next time, see you later.
Go Texans.